Our subject on bullying and school violence prevention. My name is Shelley Henson. I'm the Community Safety Supervisor for the Public Safety Office here at the City of Lancaster.
I'm Craig Steffen, Crime Prevention Officer, City of Lancaster Public Safety Office.
And we also have Deputy Michael Montestioca, our Community Relations and Crime Prevention Deputy. If you have not gotten the handouts in the back, I encourage you to get those because we'll be going through them through the presentation. To start off, we're going to start with a video.
Wanda was the one girl we claimed we never knew. Lincoln High School's homecoming queen. She barely graduated with the class of 92. Voted most unlikely to succeed. Rumor had it Wanda never knew who her daddy was. At least that's what we spread all over town. I guess we always thought that we were building ourselves up with the sticks and stones we threw to break her down. All the years we thought it didn't matter, 'cause we never saw her cry. And Wanda never asked us why. Do you hurt me and treat me like you do? What have I ever done to deserve this from you? Would you do the things you do if you were me and I were you? Looking back, I see the pain that we put Wanda through, just for all the fun and games we're leading. We didn't realize the damage sticks and stones would do, 'cause it was deep inside, Wanda was bleeding. The paper said her death was self-inflicted. Was it suicide? 'Cause the note she wrote said, why do you hurt me and treat me like you do? What have I ever done to deserve this from you? Would you do the things you do? You were me and I were you. There's reaction. Broken hearts don't just happen. If you put yourself in their position, there's no good answer to the question, why do you hurt me? Treat me like you do. What have I ever done to deserve this from you? You do the things you do. You were me and I were you. Wanda was the one girl who claimed we never knew.
And what we're going to start with tonight, the first one will be, what is bullying? Bullying is a special form of aggressive behavior. What differentiates bullying from other aggressive acts is that the student who bullies intends to harm. There is more than one incident, and an imbalance of power makes it hard for the child who's being bullied to defend him or herself. The differences in power can be physical. The child who bullies can be older, bigger, stronger, or several children can gang up on a single child. It can also be psychological, which is harder to see, but it's just as potent. The student who bullies can have more social status or a sharper tongue, for instance, and the child who is victimized, oppression is always a result. One of the types is physical bullying. That's the first one we're going to cover. which is the easiest to identify, includes a variety of behaviors such as hitting, kicking, shoving, and taking and destroying property. Physical bullying is more widespread among boys.
Next, we have verbal bullying, which includes name-calling, insults, intimidation, mocking, threatening, taunting, teasing, and making racist, sexist, or sexual comments. When does teasing cross the line and turn into bullying? Not everyone agrees, but some researchers see both teasing and bullying as points on a continuum of intentionally hurtful behavior, different only in degree. I'm not done yet. Sorry. Verbal abuse is the most common form of bullying for both sexes.
Relational or psychological bullying uses relationships to control or harm other persons, excluding them from a group or events, talking behind her back or his back, spreading rumors, telling lies about, giving her or him the silent treatment, and so on. Girls are more likely... Relational bullying deprives children of the opportunity to close and to be accepted by their peers, needs that are important for their well-being and development. Girls are more likely to use and to become targets of retaliation or bullying. Relational bullying, pardon me.
And both boys and girls consider it the most hurtful of bullying. Although they can be hard to classify, making faces and gesturing can also be considered bullying. In recent years, two more forms of bullying have stepped into the limelight. One is sexual harassment and the other is cyberbullying. I'm going to hold off on the cyberbullying because we'll be getting more into that a little later in the presentation. But for the sexual harassment, it's unwanted or unwelcome sexual behavior that interferes with a student's life. It's about power, not sex. It includes being the target of sexual comments, jokes, gestures, or looks, being called gay or lesbian, being touched, grabbed, pinched, or brushed up against in any sexual way, being flashed or mooned, being the object of sexual rumors or graffiti, being spied on while undressing or showering, having clothing pulled down or off, and being forced to kiss or do something sexual. Both boys and girls are harassed and harass others. Among preteens and young teens, homophobic insults to boys are the most common kind of sexual harassment. Gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transsexual students face an especially high risk of harassment. 90% of those in one survey had been verbally or physically harassed in the previous year.
Next, we're going to go over the possible signs of bullying. That'll be the gold one here. A child may indicate by their behavior that he or she is being bullied. If a child shows some of the following signs, bullying may be responsible. Adults should be aware of these possible signs, and they should investigate. If a child is frightened of walking to or from school, doesn't want to go to school on a public bus, begs to be driven to school, changes their usual routine, is unwilling to go to school, school-phobic, becomes withdrawn, anxious, starts stammering, attempts to threaten suicides, or runs away. If they have nightmares at night, or if they're crying at night, the schoolwork starts to suffer. They start doing poorly in schoolwork. They come home and it looks like they've been in a fight or something. Their school clothes are torn. Their books are torn, book covers. Possessions end up missing. They take something to school, but they don't come home with it. They come up with different excuses for that. They take money to school, but they're hungry when they get home, which means they're probably not eating at school, so they're using the money for something else, possibly, paying a bully. They become aggressive, disruptive, or unreasonable, and they start bullying other children in your family also, or friends. They actually stop eating because they're so worried about what's going on at school. They're frightened to say what's wrong, and they give the excuses for what's going on up above on this list that are just, way out there. It doesn't make any sense. You ask them what's going on, and they come up with an excuse that doesn't make any sense at all. These signs and behaviors could indicate other problems, but bullying should be considered a possibility and should be investigated.
Next, you have a blue handout. It's myth versus fact. I'm not going to go through all of those, but I will touch on some. A myth, name-calling and teasing are just normal part of growing up. I'm sure we all have stories growing up of being teased or bullied. I actually do, and name-calling. The fact is this behavior is not normal and it needs to be stopped. Another myth, the effects of bullying behavior are usually temporary. The fact is that the effects can last extremely long. When anyone is called names, they're excluded, or etc. Another myth is everyone who is bullied becomes a victim. The fact is anyone who is bullied may be correctly described as a target, but to become a victim, a person has to be continually bullied without relief and feels helpless to change things. Another myth we find is bullying behaviors can be resolved using conflict resolution steps. The fact is the person doing the bullying does not want to find a solution. Often they are enjoying the power and want to continue inflicting pain on the target. Another myth, if we ignore minor incidents like exclusion or name-calling, the problem will often go away. The fact is, no, these behaviors will continue unless we confront the bully and call the behavior what it is. Continuing with another myth, the use of an innocent bystander is not an effective way to stop bullying. The fact is there is no such thing as an innocent bystander. In fact, they can be useful in stopping bullying behaviors by speaking up for the target, not watching hurtful behavior, and getting help when needed. Although not easy, we need to call upon the silent majority to stand up for what's right. And on that note, too, we know that some other kids who may be considered innocent bystanders are themselves afraid to speak up because they themselves then do not want to become a target. And another myth, boys are usually the bullies. The fact is girls are becoming more physically aggressive, and the relational bullying that they do can be extremely damaging. That was my own. But it relates to the blue one, myth versus fact.
We'll get them back over there.
We'll get them for you. I apologize.
The one thing that we really want to concentrate on tonight is to have an open line of communication with your children. That's the most critical thread that goes through all this and the videos that we're going to be showing. And I know it's rough. I've raised 3 girls, or they've raised me, and it's to keep that line of communication open is the most important thing. No matter what's happening in their life, whether they're teenagers or they're little ones, you need to have that line open with them so they can come and talk to you about anything that goes on. And you need to discuss it with them at a young age, kindergarten, pre-kindergarten, set a time aside where you do stuff during the week or daily, whether it's dinner time where everybody meets and can talk to one another, or it's game night, or whatever it happens to be, movie night, but keep those lines of communications open so your children can come and talk to you if they've got problems, and explain to them if any of this stuff, go over bullying with them. If any of this goes on in their lives, it's not their fault, and they should be able to tell you, or at least tell a sister or something that can tell you. But you have to keep those lines of communications open from the time they're in little and preschool all the way to the adult, pre-adult years when they're teenagers. They get out at parties or something like that, and they need to be able to call mom or dad if they're in trouble. They shouldn't get to the point where, oh no, I'm not going to talk to mom and dad or whoever, the guardian, because they're afraid to, because they think they're going to get in more trouble. You need to keep those lines of communications open at all times, from the time they're 5 years old to the time they're 18 years old. And you'll see everything we're talking about, it's so many times the child is being bullied and can't come home and talk to mom and dad about it. And they keep it inside, and a lot of these things will go over. Mom and dad had no idea that they were getting bullied. But if you have a good relationship with your children, and they can come home and they can talk to you about things without a lot of bad repercussions, and again, in this day and age, everybody's busy. We're busier now than we were 20 years ago. And sometimes work takes priority. You're coming home, you're commuting, but you have to have time so your children can talk to you. So make it, whatever it is during the daytime, whether it's dinner time, game night, the weekend, keep those lines of communications open because they need to be able to talk to you.
And in addition to that, I'd like to add the importance of parents being involved when their children are on the internet. I will say, and I've said it as long as I've been here at the city, I am very anti-social website. It's just our line of work. But if your kids have a Facebook or MySpace or any other social website profile, please be involved in what they're doing and who they're talking to. Talk to them so they know what they may come up against. I'm not sure if you're all aware of the case. It actually, on a personal note, upsets me greatly where, if you remember, and we don't have her picture tonight, but there was a girl that was being, there was instant messaging, and I believe she was from back east somewhere, the Midwest, and basically it ended up being an adult that was messaging her, and she thought it was a 14-year-old boy that she was talking to. And when this woman, because I believe it was her daughter that liked the same boy, I believe, she was basically bullying her online, and she basically made some very derogatory comments and basically said the world would be a better place without her. So she proceeded upstairs and hung herself in her closet. And if you don't know, about 2 weeks ago, this woman, unfortunately, and that's my opinion, was acquitted. With the internet still being so new and so much of it is not controlled, there really are no laws to govern this type of behavior. But I will say again, personally, not the city's, but my personal opinion, I was very disappointed to see that this woman was, acquitted. So it's not just for cyberbullying. There's predators. You know, people are saying they're 14, but they can be predators. They can, like this woman, she was acting as if she was a 14-year-old boy for her own selfish reasons, for her daughter. But just please talk to them, like Craig is saying. Be involved. Know who they're talking to, what internet pages, sites they're going on. And there are ways to monitor that. If you need help with that, that's something we can talk to you about offline.
And also with that, the best way I had it told to me was, you know, you go by, you see your child's on the computer, a boy or a girl, and they're talking to someone, and like Shelley said, they really don't know who they're talking to. And you walk by, and you're busy, and you look, and we all do it, and it's like, oh, they're talking to a friend or something. But what would you do if you looked out front, and your 12-year-old girl was talking to another 12-year-old girl? Not really a problem. But what if your 12-year-old girl, daughter, was talking to a 40-year-old man out there on the sidewalk? And that's what you have to think about, is because anybody can pretend to be anybody they want to be on the internet. So you definitely would take action if you looked out front and saw your teenage daughter or boy out there talking to a middle-aged man. You know, you would take action right away, and you just have to think of it that way. Even if it is upsetting to the child at that point, you know, you're watching out for the safety of your child, and that's the most important thing.
And as we move on to the 10 actions all parents can take to help eliminate bullying, and we actually got this information from education.com. I just want to read a little bit. The latest research shows that more than half of all children are at least on one occasion or on occasion directly involved in bullying as a perpetrator, victim, or both. And many of those who are not directly involved witness others being bullied on a regular basis. No child is immune. Kids of every race, gender, grade, and socioeconomic sector are impacted. But it doesn't have to be this way. As parents, you have the power to help reduce bullying. Here again are the top 10 actions that you can take to help address bullying.
And number one, again, we can't emphasize more, keep an open line with the kids so they're able to come and talk to you. And if you start at an earlier age, 5 or 6, and then when they get to be 6 or 7 or 7 and 8, they still continue to do that. I know sometimes when it gets to the teenage years, it's difficult and it's hard, but still whatever you can figure out that'll work with your teenagers as far as communicating with them, whether it's video night and then you talk, or a dinner, or everybody goes out for pizza, or whatever it happens to be, or the ball game, set it up, and try to keep that open line with them, because if stuff starts happening in their life, whether it's alcohol, drugs, or bullying, and they can't come to you, it could be a tragedy, and that's the number one thing that we're going to press all night here.
Spend time at school and recess. Research shows that 67% of bullying happens when adults are not present. Now, I realize if you're a working parent, that's very difficult to be at your child's school. But even if you're a working parent, be involved. Talk to their teacher. Know who they're spending time with at school and even after school. I know for me growing up, and granted it was a different time than no internet, but still some of the rules apply. My mom and dad wouldn't let me go to someone else's house unless they knew who it was. Not only have I been friends with this person for a while, but had they met the parents, that kind of thing. So schools don't have the resources to do it all and need parents' help in reducing bullying. Whether you can volunteer once a week or once a month, you can make a real difference just by being present and helping to organize activities that encourage kids to play with new friends. Also, coordinate an on-campus volunteer time with your child's teacher and or principal. And also, and I'm going a little bit ahead, but be a role model. When you're interacting not just with your kids but others, be a role model of how to treat people the right way.
And with that, you are the role model, especially for your kids. There's a lot of TV out there. They spend a lot of time watching TV, video games. They're with their peers at school. But it's up to us as parents to set the tone. Don't get angry when you're driving, or if you do, don't come out with a verbal response inside the car as far as yelling or blowing your top. I mean, I know sometimes it's hard, but we are setting an example for our children. And if we're constantly, blowing our top and driving down the road and you get upset, and you go into a store and something's happening with the clerk and you're getting upset and getting angry and yelling and your voice changes and you start getting this mean, personality day in and day out, that could lead to your child actually becoming a bully. So just try to, everybody will get upset, but you got to remember the kids are there with you, and also as far as the parents that are hanging around with your kids, if you don't need a background investigation on them, but if you've got somebody, another parent, that's constantly losing their temper and you see that, maybe it's not a good idea to have your child be going out on day trips with the other parent, because you don't know what they're saying in the car or in the house, or yelling or screaming, and just set a bad tone, and it's up to us to set the tone.
And we touched on it earlier, but learn the signs. Learn how to try and read your child. I know it can be difficult, but most children will not tell. You'll see in some of our video, and actually some of the kids that we showed in the first video that unfortunately we lost to bullying, their parents had no idea. And that's very unfortunate, and I can only imagine how lonely, they felt. But it's really sad that they felt so intimidated or so full of shame that they felt that they couldn't go to their parent or an adult. When we do our general child safety, we always emphasize to the parents, please, if your kids are not going to be comfortable coming to you as a parent, teach them to go to another trusted adult. I know growing up for me, my grandma was my best friend and who I would feel more comfortable going to rather than my mom or my dad. So whether it's an aunt, their best friend's mom, an older sister, whatever it is, teach them, again, that if it can't be you, that they need to go to another trusted adult. Their teacher at school. We have school deputies on our campuses. Maybe they have a great rapport with that school deputy because they see him or her day in and day out and know that that's a trusted adult. And again, we talked about possible signs of bullying, but recognize, like I said, try and recognize those possible signs. Frequent loss of personal belongings, as Greg had mentioned, complaints of headaches or stomach aches, possibly throwing up, avoiding any recess or any school activities, even after school activities. They tend to try and go to school late every day or very early because obviously they're trying to avoid the bully. And if you suspect that your child may be bullied, talk with the teacher or find ways to observe his or her peer interactions to determine whether or not your suspicions might be right. And remember, listen to your gut instinct. Again, I know it can be hard if your child doesn't want to be forthcoming and is feeling worried or intimidated to tell you. But again, if you build that relationship and that open communication, hopefully then they will come forward and talk to you about it.
And I know a lot that we're going over tonight, you might already be practicing, and we thank everybody for coming here tonight. We also are broadcasting live on Time Warner Cable right now on Channel 28, and this will be on our website also, that you can check it out later, or your neighbors can check it out if they want to. And then also during the month, it'll be replayed on Channel 28. So we do reach a lot of people with these broadcasts, and hopefully we can reach some of the people that might be at home right now, that don't know a lot of this and aren't practicing this. So we hope to, get that out there to them also. So you can also tell your friends that might not have made it tonight, feel free to take any of the brochures back there for your neighbors or friends, but let them know that it is on the website, and anytime they want to view this to get more information, they can do this. Later on, near the end, we will have questions and answers, and since we are on live and are taping, we'll have the microphone. So if you have a question or comment near the end, just raise your hands. We'll get the microphone out there to you, and you have to talk directly into the mic, so it'll be picked up on the air here. So going to the next subject here, basically start stuff at an early age with your kids, as far as being nice. It's hard right now in society. I don't know about you, but I go out shopping sometimes, and people will walk through a door and not open it for me and not say thank you and not say hello, and we're losing a little bit of that. So we need to start with the kids young, teach them manners naturally, but teach them, not to be cruel to the other playmates that they might have, and let them know, hey, you said something to your friend Billy, but how's that going to make Billy feel? Is that the right thing to say? And talk it over with your child. They should understand, no, that's not the right thing. And then let them know that if they're the ones getting bullied, that they should always come and tell mom and dad what's going on, so mom and dad can maybe find a solution to the problem. But just start with the niceties and, yes, no, hello, goodbye, and not the teasing, like going up to a kid, no, you did something wrong, or making fun, or you're a chicken, or any stuff like that. Let them know how that's going to make another child feel if they do that.
Okay. And work with your child's school to address bullying effectively. Craig will be going a little bit more into detail with that a little bit later in the presentation. But whether your child has been bullied or not, you should know what the school is doing to address this issue. Research shows that zero-tolerance policies are not effective. What works better are ongoing educational programs that help create a healthy social climate in school. This means teaching kids at every grade level how to be inclusive leaders and how to be empathetic towards others, and teaching victims effective resistance techniques. If your school does not have effective bullying strategies and policies in place, talk to the principal and advocate for change. Just this afternoon, our secretary took a phone call from a vice principal of one of our local schools, and she was talking about tonight's presentation because she wasn't able to make it, and the secretary told her about what Craig just mentioned, how we're on live on the website, and then we'll be on Channel 28. But what was most disturbing from the conversation was that the reason she wanted to be here is because she is dealing with a bullying situation at her school. However, unfortunately, the principal is in denial and is basically stating that there is no bullying at his school. And that's really unfortunate to hear that, because obviously we know this is a very serious matter, and that's exactly why we're here, because a lot of people unfortunately think it's no big deal or it's not happening, and unfortunately our youth are dealing with it every day.
And with that, it's not just the idea that the kids are getting upset or some of the symptoms that we went over, they're just crying at night. We have children that are actually killing themselves because of bullying, so it needs to stop. One of the things is telling your child, that bullying is not right, and also for them to intervene when they do see other kids getting bullied. Sometimes it can stop the bullying. You have 3 or 4 kids picking on one kid. People walk by at school, other students, and they see this. But maybe they don't want to get bullied, and it's just like the attitude of, well, it's not me that they're bullying, so I'm going to walk away. It's up to everybody in society, including the children. If somebody is bullying, 4 kids are bullying one kid, there's nothing wrong, and it's the right thing to do for your child, boy or girl, to intervene and say, hey, that's not right, stop that. Sometimes that's all it takes. Sometimes the people that are bullying will stop bullying that other child. People need to stand up, just like, the adults are standing up to fight crime in Lancaster and Neighborhood Watch. Kids need that same schooling and the right and wrong of it, and be able to, intervene and say, stop bullying him, or at the least go and tell the teacher, hey, these 3 kids over here are bullying little Bobby or whatever, so the teacher's aware of it. But just walking by and not doing anything is not the right thing to do. Yes. Right.
Okay. Along with that, as Craig mentioned, also teach your child how to be a good witness. This goes along with how we talk to our neighborhood watch groups. Research shows that kids who witness bullying feel powerless and seldom intervene. However, kids who take action can have a powerful and positive effect on the situation. Although it's never a child's responsibility to put him or herself in danger, kids can often effectively diffuse a bullying situation by yelling, "Stop, you're bullying." Kids can also help each other by providing support to the victim, not giving extra attention to the bully, and or reporting what they witnessed to an adult.
Next one up is cyberbullying, and we're going to have a couple videos here, DVDs, that are really, they might tear you up or even make you cry. In today's society, with computers, with cell phones, with everybody texting, everybody online, it's so much different than it was probably when most of us were growing up. If one person was saying something mean to another girl or a boy at school, and then maybe there was 2 or 3 people that would join in, now with texting, with the internet, one person can send one text to like 50 people at one time. With cell phones, taking pictures, advise your kids not to take, what they think is funny pictures or of a sexual nature and send it to one friend. It gets out there to one trusted friend, and 6 months later that friend is not a friend anymore, and they send it to 100 people out there, and it's very embarrassing, and it's tragic, and I mean, it's hard to do, but try to educate the kids before they do something like that. Let them know not to send texts that might be interpreted wrong, or even clowning, I like to do this, I like to do that. It gets out there, one friend sends it to somebody else, and pretty soon it's at school, and 3,000 people have it, and it wasn't intended for that, it was a joke. But let them know whatever they send out in a text message or an email, it could go out to the whole world shortly after. And it's just something to watch out for. And one of the things is before, if you do have kids, also inform them, especially with texting now. Before it would be the bit, if someone is getting bullied and someone would walk up and say, well, I'm going to meet you later and we'll meet behind the cafeteria. Just me and you, and we'll talk it over. That was one thing. But now with texting, 2 people could agree to that, the bully and the victim, and then the bully gets in text 50 people, and then the victim shows up behind the cafeteria with 50 people, and it's just going to get bullied even worse. Let them know that, don't ever go anywhere, especially if somebody's bullying them, to a secluded area like that. Keep it where it's public, keep it at school, at your house, not their house. We've seen a couple things come on the TV as far as the tapes where they invite a girl over to the house and they jump her. And it's a big thing, and they videotape it. Keep an eye on the kids. Keep that line of communication open. If they're having a problem, they're getting bullied, they have to be able to talk to you on it.
And just to add to that, too, most kids and even adults do not realize once a picture is put on the internet, even if it's removed at a later point off their profile page, it's still in the internet world. It's still there somewhere, and it will never go away. So teach your children that too, because most adults don't realize that either. And like Craig's saying, any derogatory pictures, anything that could be considered of sexual nature, etc., they may think, oh, ha-ha in the moment, but down the road it can actually hurt them. I'm not sure if you're aware, but I remember last year on several occasions hearing it in the news that actually a lot of employers are using the internet to research possible potential new employees, and some people were not getting hired because of what pictures were found of them on the internet. So please make sure to educate your children on that. Also, spread the word that bullying should not be a normal part of childhood. Some adults hesitate to act when they observe or hear about bullying because they think of bullying as a typical phase of childhood that must be endured or that it can help children toughen up. It is important for all adults to understand that bullying does not have to be a normal part of childhood. All forms of bullying are harmful to the perpetrator, the victim, and to witnesses, and the effects last well into adulthood, and can include depression, anxiety, substance abuse, family violence, and criminal behavior. Efforts to effectively address bullying require the collaboration of the school, the home, and the community. We hope tonight that along with you, but also being on our website and on Channel 28, that this information can help spread the word of the importance of this topic. And I have to say, on a personal note, I can remember specific events when I was growing up. 6th grade, not a good year for me. I was bullied definitely by a few kids. My life was miserable. I hated going to school in 6th grade. And until I got into public safety and until this topic became, very, for lack of better words, popular the last couple of years, I probably wouldn't have called it bullying. I too would have said I was teased, I was harassed, I was intimidated. I had a couple girls every day in 6th grade. My situation was my school, because of Prop 13, when I was in 5th grade, I can remember being so disappointed because Prop 13 passed. I was looking forward to being the big kid on campus for 6th grade, and my school got closed. So I had to go to the new school for 6th grade, and my school that I was in through 5th grade, we were like the little good innocent children. We went to this other school, completely different kids. They were smoking, they were tough, they were beating each other up, and I had 2 of those girls basically for, I can't remember how much time, but I do remember it was a significant time in 6th grade that they were trying to hit me. They'd wait for me after school and threaten to beat me up. So it was not a fun year. And so I do believe now, knowing about bullying, that obviously that qualifies. So again, it's something that will stay with me for the rest of my life. Even though I ended up not getting not getting beat up, I was tormented over a period of time. And like I said, I was miserable.
One of the other things is sometimes a victim can turn around and become a bully, and it's considered a bully victim. And they have a hard time controlling their emotions, problems as far as their feelings of anger and frustration. They show social and emotional problems that are frequently present in victims of bullying, such as anxiety, depression, peer rejection, and lack of close friendships. So not only they are a victim, but sometimes they actually turn around and bully, just like a lot of the other things we see in society. When somebody is a victim of something, sometimes as they get older, they turn around and they do it to their children, or it continues on down the line. So, bullying is a problem. It shouldn't be acceptable at any age. We need to stop it. Everybody needs to step up. Talk to, if you're a parent, talk to the other parents. If it's happening in school, talk to the teachers. Just everybody get involved and keep talking it up so we can handle this situation. The next thing we're going to go into is schools. Work with your staff and pupils together to create an anti-bullying policy that includes issues of racist bullying. That's not acceptable either. Ensure that the policy is readily available to staff, parents, and pupils so everybody's on the same page. That'll be the yellow one here. Some schools ask pupils to sign the policy and keep it in their school file, and that's a good thing, so everybody can be on the same page, parents, people, the student, teachers. Explain that everyone has a part to play in preventing bullying. No one is allowed to be a bystander, Anyone who knows or witnesses bullying must tell and get help. And that's the key thing. It's not just the bully and the victim, it's everybody else that sees what's going on. Be aware and vigilant. If possible, the staff should try to uncover the bully, as this protects the victims from being seen and tattling and further risking their safety. For a lot of years, and then things change over time, it was like, don't be a tattletale. Well, sometimes that doesn't always work. Sometimes, it's that word tattletale or tattling might not be the right word. You're just reporting bullying. You're not being a tattletale per se. You're reporting bullying. Tattling is kind of a bad word. Provide a private way for frightened victims to tell, such as in individual meetings with all students on a regular basis, so no one is seen to be singled out of a box where children can anonymously post suggestions, complaints, and comments. And that's a good thing to do at the school, rather than a student having to go up to the teacher and the other kids see it, and it's like, what's Bobby telling the teacher this time? Maybe once every 2 weeks, whatever works out for the school schedule, everybody meets with the teacher, during the day. So they come, maybe during recess or something like that, come in one at a time. So everybody's called in, so it's not like at the end, if something is brought up, that they don't know what student said what. There's 30 students in the class, 30 students went in and talked to the teacher, 30 students went out. The bully doesn't know who was saying what to who, and that's kind of a good idea. Ensure that lessons in self-esteem and friendship skills, assertiveness, handling conflict are included in lesson plans. Ensure the safety and support of victims, very important. Try first to mediate so that pupils are given a chance to resolve things peacefully as possible. Help bullies to understand that their behavior is completely unacceptable and they must take responsibility for their actions, apologize, and make amends. Going down a little bit further, make it clear that suspension or exclusion will be considered in serious cases. It's kind of a situation where we know a lot of the schools have a zero tolerance for any fighting on campus, and in one way we understand that. But if you have a bully, strictly a bully, and you have a victim who is only a victim, and if the victim stands up for themselves, not getting the first blow in, but just protecting themselves, in some of our personal opinions, maybe it should be discussed more with the parents, the students, and the staff, because if the good student is being bullied and they feel that I can't even defend myself because I'm going to be expelled, that's a heck of a bad thing to be. That's a heck of a situation for that student to be in. So if that's the situation at your school, and I would talk to your principal or at least the teachers and see if that's what's going on, because we've heard circumstances where a bully's gone up and be physically attacking someone, the other victim would just try to cover up or defend themselves. Staff would see this as a zero tolerance, and they possibly both might get expelled. Talk to your teachers, talk to the principals, see what can be done about that situation. We're not saying that the victim has the right to go off on the bully, but if they're just covering up or defending themselves or yelling, stop, or taking a defensive stance with their body, saying, stop, quit hitting me, I do not see a reason why that kid should be excluded from class or suspended. Teach all the students bullying prevention, which can include strategies such as ignore the bullying, pretend not to hear, walk away quickly, use body language to look determined, strong, and positive, even if they are frightened inside, and I think that's one of the best ones right there. Shout no, go away as loudly as possible, because that will also inform other kids what's going on, and also the staff. And always tell a trusted adult if they are bullied. Again, it's not their fault if they're getting bullied. They should be able to tell staff, they should be able to tell their parents, or a trusted adult that can tell their parents.
And just to add quickly to that, for the one about using body language to look determined, strong, and positive, that's another thing we tell our adults in our neighborhood watch programs. You may be scared on the inside, but if you look the person in the eye, that's a sign of confidence. You can be scared to death on the inside, and the hair on the back of your neck might be standing up, and you've got that aching feeling in your gut because you know something's just not right. Same thing here if that's how the child or teenager is feeling. But again, teach them that that's a sign of confidence, and that can help them in this situation. Monty, I think you wanted to add something.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in here and basically What she said earlier about the school principal not acting on, what he heard. We have PTAs. I don't know how many in here are involved in PTAs, but that's another good source of support. I know if it was my kid getting bullied and the principal's not paying attention, I'd probably take it up to the PTA because, let's face it, PTAs are very powerful. I mean, that's how we get most of our information now. I am part of the PTA, and I'm very proud of it. Our PTA is there to help out and support our schools. But if you feel like you have no other recourse, you can go over there and talk to the PTA and say, hey, we have a problem in our school. Our teachers are making aware of it, but, our principal's not wanting to accept the fact that there's a problem. Because what can happen ultimately is, your tragedies happen, and that's what we don't want. So there is another resource, and that is your PTA. And I say that only because if you're not involved, get involved. Pay the $15 to do the year. It actually works out really well. They're there, they hear you, they have their meetings, they do what they have to do. But again, I'm trying to it bothered me that she said that because as a law enforcement point of view, it's like, if you come into us with a problem and we ignore you, how is that going to make you feel towards us? If I were that parent or the teacher and that's happening, I would be very upset with that principal, maybe go in and talk to that principal. And if you still can't get any answers, well, then you just take it further up, your chain of command. Obviously, there's two sides to each story. I'm not going to sit here and badmouth the principal, but it does bother me that nothing is being taken care of on that level. Because we as parents, when we drop our kids off, we expect to get our kids back the same way we dropped them off. We don't want problems. I know when my kid was having problems at school, she was getting bullied by two girls. And I told him, what's going on? He was a little embarrassed, but he told me. I said, all right. Being the dad, I flew off the handle. I got mad. Not at him, and I didn't let him see that I was mad, but I told my wife, I go, why is it that he's telling us and he can't go to his coaches and his teachers? Why is it that he's coming to us? Is it because he feels like nothing's getting done? Well, it was because, and I found out that I am a law enforcement officer. What do we teach our kids? If you can't talk to somebody, you go talk to a law enforcement officer or a trusted adult. That was actually kind of cool because he came to me as a parent and as that law enforcement officer. So I got on the computer and wrote up a page and a half on my discontent on the fact that nothing was being done. So after I calmed down, about a day or two later, I asked him, how's it going? He said, it's going a little bit better. What did you do? Well, what you told me to do. I told the coach. What did the coach do? The coach saw what was happening, pulled the girls out, but to find out it wasn't just him they were picking on, it was 2 or 3 other kids. This little group my son was in was just playing whatever. They just came over. Again, maybe they were teasing him because they liked him. Maybe they were, the old, oh, you have a crush on you. No, he was seriously feeling like he was getting bullied because it carried on into the classroom. Once the teacher found out, then she took her action and people were moved around. So I felt comfortable. I still have that letter. I never sent it out. But in the event something like that happens again, it's there. But again, if we don't tell our children what to do or who to go to, then they're going to keep that bottle up inside. So we need to make sure that when this does come up and you do talk to your school administrators, your teachers, and you're not getting that answer, like I said, PTA, and if not, then you take it up your chain of command.
Before we move on, we're going to show a few more videos.
How's that go?
I'm going to tell you my story, only once, a story that I've never talked about and that should never have happened to me, that I'm going to try to forget. I'm 13 years old. I get good grades at school. School year is almost over. I will miss school, and especially my friends. I'm a shy girl, and people often say that I'm really reserved. I feel more comfortable dressing like the musicians of my favorite bands. When I dress gothic, it hides my shyness, and I feel respected. There's a girl at my school that seems to be jealous of me. She bullies me and says that I dress like her. Her and her friends call me every name in the book, in front of everyone. They just won't leave me alone, even on the chat. I try to ignore them the best I can, until the day that I notice my picture in their lockers. I have a round circle around my head and a red bar across my face. After a long time of humiliation, it gets worse. I can't take it anymore. Plus, at school, girls trip me and I fall to the ground. I cry so much it hurts. Why? Just because I have the same pants as one of them? This just can't go on. I just don't know what to do anymore. When I get home, my mom notices how down I am. I tell her everything. She advises the school. They get called to the office, get a small punishment. Finally, end of the school year has arrived. It's a good thing I talked about it. It's over. The hot weather has arrived. My summer dance classes have begun like every year since I was a little girl. My parents don't understand why I don't want to dance anymore. They know how much I love to dance. They're in my dance classes, and they continue to bully me. When I walk around the neighborhood, they even throw bottles at me. My summer is long and painful. I'm scared. The new school year is starting. For my birthday, I received some money. My parents offer to go shopping out of town to get some unique clothing to avoid problems. Hopefully, they'll leave me alone. The next day, two of them constantly push me on the walls. My parents can't take it anymore. Contact the school and the police. Charges are laid. It's over. Things are going better. I'm surfing the net, chatting with friends, just having fun. One of my friends sends me a link to a site. I go check it out. The blog contains pictures of Gothics. I look at it, read it. The site seems familiar. Aw, man. I've just told you my story. Only once. A story that I've never talked about, and that should never have happened to me. Now that I've talked about it, I'm going to try to forget it and try to live my life normally. At least, that's what I think.
And again, if you can keep that open line of communications with your children before it gets too far and it keeps on building and building and building so they get damaged like this or get to the point where they do feel like they want to do something to their body or commit suicide, if you have that open communication, which you just have to try to keep, even when they do get into teenage years and it becomes so difficult, whatever works for you, because it's going to be on an individual basis, whatever's going to work. And it doesn't mean you have to be their best friend at that time, because you are the parents, but you do have to have that line of communications open so they can talk to you when they need to talk to you. Yeah, and we'll go into the last one we have here.
This year, I had the best birthday ever. All my friends were there, even David. And to top it all off, I received some amazing gifts. I got the 2 things I wanted so badly that my parents would not let me have until I turned 14. I would never have believed that something I wanted so badly would cause the story I am telling you today. When my birthday was over and my friends were gone, my parents let me stay up late. I decided to go chatting while listening to music on my new Ghetto Blaster. Finally, I was going to be able to try to chat with DJ. My friend always talked about him and said he was hot and that I should chat with him too. But he never wanted to chat with me before because I did not have a webcam. I sent him a request with my webcam. He accepted. He was so amazing. It felt weird to think that he was looking at me when I was chatting with him. He even told me he thought I was hot, very hot. I couldn't wait to come home after school every day, just to chat with him. I was spending more and more time in my room. One day, he refused to chat with me. I didn't understand why. Then, he said that my webcam wasn't working well, but he said he could fix it. He sent me a link to a software that fixes webcam problems. He even told me what numbers to enter. It worked, but he told me that I had to leave my computer on all the time for my webcam to continue working properly. After a few months, we got to know each other very well. I asked him if we could meet. He said no, not right away. He wanted me to show myself naked before doing so. I told him that I did not want to do that, but he told me I should consider doing it, otherwise he would show these pictures to my parents. I had no choice. I did not want my parents to think I had actually done that. I did what he asked me to do. He made me do things I did not want to do. He threatened he would tell my parents what I did. He insisted it was time for us to meet. I didn't want to meet him anymore. I was so scared. I unplugged my computer. My parents noticed something was wrong. I didn't go in my room anymore. I was always crying. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I told them everything. I would never have thought that something I had dreamt of getting for so long would have turned into such a nightmare. The police ended up finding DJ from the information found in my computer. They also found out that I was not his only victim. If you don't want this to happen to you, you should have your computer in an open area. Do not accept to download files without discussing it with your parents. And if something makes you uncomfortable, talk about it. Consider your webcam like an open window and the whole world is watching you. When you're not using it, shut it off.
The internet is great, computers are great, this is all good stuff, but if you're a parent and you don't know about computers, I would suggest finding out about computers, or take a class on computers. Educate your kids when they're young like that. If you're going to give them their own computer for their own room, which should be more in a public area so you can walk by at any time and see what's going on. But it's something you just need to educate them and let them know what could happen before it does happen. By not telling them what could happen, hoping it doesn't happen, doesn't seem to be working that well. So there she is, 14 years old, and she's talking to somebody, whoever he is and how old, met through a friend, and doing all this, and then getting in some trouble, and then not telling the parents, because the parents are going to get mad and in more trouble and more trouble. Again, the line of communications. But warn your children. Let them know at an early age, not on bullying, on drugs, on the internet like this, on everything. Let them know what the ramifications could be if they do stuff as far as giving out personal information and stuff. Just, constantly keep talking to the kids.
Obviously, self-esteem is very important. So as much as you want to teach your kids and be strict with them, you also want to build their esteem. You heard her mention it in her story. And you also heard her mention, and I was remiss in saying it earlier, please make sure the computer is in a family area of the home. She mentioned that she was in her bedroom and she was spending more and more time, and that's very typical, but that's what can get these kids into trouble. Please make sure it's in a family room, even the kitchen, a dining room area, but not behind closed doors. If you remember the Columbine story, those two boys that unfortunately did what they did and murdered the teacher and the students, they were behind closed doors. And they did all their planning, their websites, everything, because their parents were not checking on them and just let them do whatever. If you remember, too, and it maddened me, that they made one of the bombs, or they tried to make a bomb, in the garage. And the door was shut, and the parents never looked in on them, never knew what they were doing. So it's so important. We cannot emphasize that enough. Again, know what your kids are doing, who they're talking to, monitor. There's ways on the computer that you can monitor who they're talking to, but there's also, in addition to that, there's systems, there's software that you can buy in addition to simple ways on the computer to monitor who they're talking to.
Shelley, just real quick.
Yes.
I know, as parents, I'm speaking as a parent, we want to give our kids that freedom, the privacy, and, like I tell my son, so you're 18, you have no privacy. I can go inside your room at any time. That's my room. You're here because I'm letting you sit here, and by law, you have to be here. But know that if they tell you, this is my room, you can't come in, no. You're not 18 yet. It is our room. We can come in at any time. So don't be afraid, and if, you're going to get the typical, my kid's only 10, and I haven't gotten there yet, but you're going to get typical, well, I hate you, you don't give me any privacy, I can't believe you're doing this, Joe down the street or Maggie down the street, their parents let me do this. No, don't get into that. You know what? I'm sorry, but we have an obligation as parents that once they hit 18, they're our responsibility. Once they're over 18, you know what? You can do whatever you want, but don't do it here. Up until I was 20, my dad always said, if you're going to live in my house, you're going to live in my rules. Door never stayed shut. It always stayed open. And you know what? I did it. And I'm glad. What I'm trying to say is don't let your kids dictate to you how you're going to raise them. You're their parents. We all wanted to hit that 18 mark. Why? Because we were then going to be adults. I'm sorry, but no doors are closed in my house. I will go in as I please in their home, in their rooms, and if they don't like it, well, too bad. Then I just take everything out of the rooms, and all they're going to do is get a bed and a light, and that's it. Okay? So I know it sounds mean, But you know what? That's what we need to do. You need to interact with your children. Like Shelley said, if that was my kid and they're closing the door, what are you doing? You know, if I knew they were spending way too much time on the computer, pull the computer. You know what? You don't need it. You're spending way too much time. Craig mentioned earlier, you know, have a game night. Have a night where you're doing movies. Have a night where you're actually out doing dinner. I make it a fact or a point that every Friday after my wife gets out of work, we go to dinner. That's our family night. We sit and we discuss what happened during the week. It's good for me because even though they're in summer vacation and I know what their day is, hey, what'd you guys do? Oh, we helped Mom around the house. We ran errands, went to the store, did this and that. I'm interacting with them. How was your day? Oh, I was busy. We're constantly talking to each other. So just like I said, just know that, you know, they're going to do that, especially when they hit 17 years old. Oh, well, you know what? My privacy, to a certain extent. But until you hit 18, I'm going in and out that door as I please. And then once you hit 18, then you do what you got to do. So, again, just keep that in mind as a parent, and speaking as a parent, you know, don't let them dictate what happens in your house.
And one little thing, I think it's starting at an earlier age now, too. I mean, some stuff that you would think, okay, it's going to be 15, 16, 17 before they're even thinking or talking about certain items. Each generation is getting, you know, bolder, quicker as far as this stuff, as far as sexual-related stuff, as you saw some of the videos. And you think, well, yeah, 16, 17, they'll be into that. You're talking 11, 12 years old. So you need to sit down with your children and discuss stuff with them, how you feel fit. But you need to bring up some of the ramifications that could happen to them if they do things in a certain way.
All right, I'm going to chime in again, and he just keeps bringing up points. With your text messaging, with your everybody's got the camera phones, right? I mean, we all have them. I have them. Believe it or not, if you're caught with any kind of underage person, whether it be male or female, in a uncompromising or compromising, unappropriate, thank you, that's the word I want to use, any kind of sexual, you can get arrested for that. That's technically child pornography, whether you want to believe it or not. We catch it on the computer, child pornography. Catch it on the phone, it's child pornography. Try to teach our kids not to do that. It's called sexting, is what it is. And it's starting to come up little by little. There have been a couple of news articles about that, broadcast on TV. That's how I found out about it. There's specials. And I couldn't believe it. I wasn't in denial. I just couldn't believe that this was actually happening. My personal opinion, kids shouldn't have cell phones, period. Okay? That's just me. Now, in case of an emergency, after school, hey, we're with each other. You don't need a phone. You want to talk to your friend, I'll let you borrow mine. Okay? But until you can pay again, I'm doing it the old-fashioned way because that's the way I was raised. The day you can work and pay for it is the day you can have it. We own a dance studio. I go in there, and my wife, I look at her, and I'm like, how old is she? She's 9. She's got her own cell phone. Texting away, probably faster than I can. You know, I don't know what that little 10-year-old is capable of doing. Like Craig said, at 12, they're doing this stuff, you know, getting involved sexually and stuff like that. So, to me, that's more of a dangerous tool than it is a helpful tool. Now, there are other phones out there that all they have are just regular phones, nothing else, no cameras. If you want to do that for your kid, that's fine. But I would really stay away from the camera phones. But also be careful monitoring. Like, again, that's just me. My kid's 10. He's not going to get one for a couple of years. He can borrow my phone. He can borrow my wife's phone. But he's not having one. No way. If that's what you want to do, just be a little bit more careful, cautious, and responsible. Watch what they're doing. Get that phone. Let me see your phone. That's my phone. You're not paying for it. I am. It's my phone. You're borrowing it. Check the pictures. Check the text messaging. If you find something inappropriate, you make sure that if it's something that you think that we need to get involved in as far as law enforcement, then by all means you need to call us. Because the last thing we want to do is, you know, go knocking on your door and take a missing persons report because now your child's run away with this psycho or whatever that's 40, 50, 60, 30 years old, whatever. Because let's face it, people are sick out there. Okay? We need to protect our children. But it has to start with us as parents. Okay, so again, look at those phones. It's your phone, not theirs. You're just letting them borrow that phone. Check the email messages. Check the text message. Check the pictures. You'd be surprised. And I'm not trying to scare you, but just be a little bit more responsible with that. And, you know, I'm sure if my kid's watching this, he's going, oh, great, now I'm not going to get a phone until I'm 16, 17 years old. Sorry, dude. Get a job, then you can get one.
He'll get over it.
Yeah.
I have plenty to say to piggyback on what Monty said, but I'm going to get into the cyberbullying brochure, and then I'll make further comments. It's the kind of yellowish brochure. If you're not sure what cyberbullying is, it's a modern-day form of bullying that utilizes the internet to harass, humiliate, intimidate, embarrass, or threaten someone. Cell phones, as we've discussed, are also included and have become a very popular way to bully. Cyberbullying happens online or electronically by texting, email, instant messaging, and they are all hurtful or offensive. Posting provocative pictures, as we've mentioned, or messages about others in blogs or weblogs, personal diaries or journals, as you saw in the video, social network sites, and using someone else's username to spread rumors about others. Anyone can be the target of cyberbullying. Like bullying, a young person can be victimized because of the clothes they wear, based on their size, skin color, race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, or physical and mental disability. Cyberbullying can be a crime. As you're reading here, there are 4 penal code sections that cyberbullying can fall under. If cyberbullying involves any threats of violence, obscene language or materials, or using someone else's identification, because that is identity theft, you need to contact the police, which here obviously is our sheriff's department. If cyberbullying does not rise to the level of criminal conduct and the bully's identity is known, you can also take civil action, both with small claims court and restraining orders. Those can definitely be 2 options. I know we've gone over some suggestions for students, parents, and schools, but I'm going to go through these. Again, sometimes it's helpful to be repetitive. As we mentioned earlier, students, parents, and schools should all be working together. They should be allies in preventing and stopping cyberbullying and bullying in general. What students can do, break the code of silence. So much now we hear that kids don't want to be the local snitch, and that's really unfortunate, and it's a bad message, and it's a bad precedent that we're setting in our society. Teach their peers about preventing cyberbullying and the appropriate cell phone use. Do not share any personal information online. This is huge for identity theft, but also for their safety. Refuse to forward any type of cyberbullying messages. Don't say anything online that you would not say offline or in person. Do not post personal information about your friends. You might think nothing of it, but again, identity theft is huge, and if you think that's only happening to adults, you're wrong. It can happen to children as well. Do not use any personal information when setting up email or blog accounts. For example, you don't want, let's say I'm a 16-year-old. I don't want to put Shelly16 at Yahoo, because that's giving my name and my age. Obviously, I'm not 16. Or, Shelly16 at 4300 Avenue J. That could be my address. So anything like that you do not want to give. We also have, for our internet safety class for kids, they may think, oh, I'm not giving any personal information, but this one story that I like to share in that presentation is a 14-year-old girl, was online, and she was instant messaging, and she didn't know who she was talking to. She thought she was talking to another 14 or 15-year-old. Well, the personal information that she gave that she didn't realize she was giving, she talked about the school she went to. She talked about playing softball at a certain park. She talked about what color her baseball uniform was and what her number was. She played second base. She walks home a certain way from school. So you can see that kids may not realize that that's personal information that can lead people to find them. And the moral of the story with this one is this little girl was followed home one day by this individual. After she got home, there was a knock on the door shortly thereafter, and it was a police officer in plain clothes. He was the one that had come upon her on the internet and was able to get this information from her, and he sat down with her and her parents and basically told them that this is what his daughter had done, had given personal information that she didn't think was anything important, and unfortunately she was killed by the predator. So obviously that's very impactful, and that's why I like to tell this story. But again, it comes back to teaching your kids right from wrong, and I know it's hard in this internet world that we now live in. They may not realize that saying, oh, I play on the Tigers and my uniform colors are orange and brown, and you know, I'm number 5 and I'm always at the park at 3 o'clock after school. Again, though, it can lead to someone finding them and figuring out very quickly who they are. Let's see. If you are cyberbullied, as we've already stated, very important, you don't want to respond, you want to tell an adult. For parents, what parents can do, monitor, as we've stated, your children's internet and cell phone activity. Again, as Monty said, be the responsible parent. It's your cell phone, it's your computer. Have children show you what they do on the computer and scan for inappropriate content, photos, and graphics. I cannot tell you, and I only know this because of some of our trainings we've gone to as crime prevention officers, how quickly your child or somebody can come across very lewd and pornographic material on the computer. I will be very honest, in my training, not in the mode for this training that we did, but it was a detective from a police department, outside of LA County, but his point in teaching us on the internet of how quickly this stuff comes across the computer. Basically, it took minutes. And if you don't know, you'll be amazed at the pictures that people are sending. So again, have that conversation with your kids and make sure they feel comfortable, again, if not coming to you, another trusted adult.
But also, Shelley, just real quick on that, if just teach your kids too, if they come across that, it's not their fault, because sometimes what they do is they click off and they won't tell you. So make sure that you're telling your kids, hey, if you come across this kind of stuff, come get me right away. We need to take that off the computer. It's not your fault, because what they'll do is they'll go, oh my God, I'm going to get in trouble. Again, yeah, we teach our kids, don't do, but when we're teaching them safety, we need to tell them, hey, it's okay if when this comes up, you come in and you run and you tell mom and dad, so that way we can take care of the problem. We need to make sure that they know it's not their fault, because then if we don't tell them, they're going to think it is their fault, and then that's when things happen. So again, just reiterate to your children, it's not your fault. You need to let us know. We need to take care of this problem, and then you can go on and continue and do whatever. But if that's the case, like Shelley said, there's a way of blocking the computer where you set settings, and then you don't have that problem. But if you do, just tell your kids it's not your fault. Have them come to you.
And going with that, there could be something as easily as typing in the wrong word or spelling it wrong and something pops up like that. But just to give an example, especially for kids that have the computer in their own room, as Monty said, if something pops up, to tell the parents, show the parents at that point. To give you an idea, we had Bert the Camel at the Poppy Festival a couple years ago. He's actually deputy sheriff with LA County, and he's a camel, and he's Bert the Camel. So we were doing some flyers. So we just popped in the word camels, pictures of camels. And it came up, and there was like hundreds of pictures of camels. But mixed in with pictures of camels were other pictures of other things right in the middle. So if a kid does run across something like that, because they're typing in camels for report, have your child come and tell you, and then it's not their fault. They typed in camels, this popped up, yeah, that's wrong, and it's all explained.
I do remember you telling me that, Craig.
Yeah.
Okay, I lost my place. Oh yeah, just again, educating yourself about problems that are associated with the use of the internet and cell phones, and then share what you learn with others in your community. I don't know, and I should know this from being public safety, and our goal is to work more with the schools, but I hope that this is a dialogue that the PTAs have at our schools. Just a side note, in our research we were doing this week for tonight's presentation, I was impressed with a news story I came across. One of our local police shows, I believe it was Without a Trace. Usually that's about someone disappearing. But in this particular episode, and it was some months back, and it's actually one I happened to catch on TV the evening it aired, it talked about a boy that was being bullied at school, and he actually faked his disappearance. But he continued to be bullied even though he tried to escape it. And in the end, of course, it ended on a good note where the detective got there just in time as he was literally trying to hang himself. But there's a school that was using this as a teaching tool, and that was what the news story was about, is how this school was using this as a teaching tool in their social studies class. And it showed a lot of the students, they were crying because they could relate to it, and obviously seeing that this student almost took his life, and they had discussions about it. So I was very impressed with that, and I hope that more and more of our schools are going to do that. I'm going to be mentioning in a few minutes a local program that is trying to get off the ground just for that reason. I already talked about putting the computer in a living room, family room, or common area so you can monitor. Work with other parents, teachers, just as we had mentioned, youth and community leaders, to create posters to place not only in the schools but libraries and other such places in the neighborhoods. If your child has a blog, and again, some of the social networks, MySpace, Friendster, Bebo, I haven't even heard of all these, Blogger, Zanga, Facebook, etc. Check it frequently by conducting an internet search on your child's name or screen name. You may have to create your own profile to access other social network profiles. And I do know that that is an effective way that parents are using to do their research and checking on their children. Also require your child to add you as a personal friend to their friends list. And consider installing an online filter. However, do not just rely on the online filter to do all the monitoring. And as I mentioned, there are software programs and other related ways to do further monitoring.
On that, we hear a lot from the kids that they'll get on Facebook, Craigslist, whatever, they'll set their profile up, and then they'll say, well, the only people that can see it are my friends, the people I put there. Those are the only people that can see it. That isn't the case. A lot of people can get in there, and a friend of a friend of a friend, everybody can see this, but they think it's limited to 5 friends or 10 friends, and they'll put all this information out there, and that's not the case. It goes out there, and once it's out there, it can be spread and go all over. So let them know, make them aware, no, that's not the case. Show them that that's not the case. If you have to create another screen name and get in and talk to another friend and get that information and show it back to them, because the kids a lot of times, they think this is it and this is the way it is. Because if some other friend, another 12-year-old or 13-year-old, told them that. So that's the word, because my friend told me that. Sometimes you have to show them, no, let me show you, this is this, look, I get in, I can see it, and they understand. But to the point where you show them, they think that, no, my friend Bob, 12 years old, he's right, and only my friends can see this.
Mm-hmm. And then not only looking at their photos, all the photos of their friends, which I'm sorry, I'm obviously old-fashioned and biased. with our line of work, but who needs 500 friends? I'm sorry, but that's just my opinion. But don't just look at their page and say, oh yeah, he looks nice, oh she looks okay. Go and click on each picture. Obviously, if they have 500, that's going to take some time. But it's important to look at each one because you don't know what that person has on their profile page. And if you're not monitoring what's being said back and forth, that can be that could cause some problems. Again, talking about putting restrictions on who can be contacted or restrict from who can then contact your child. And then block, you can actually block the sender. Most programs and social networks have the ability to block or ignore a sender. Use the help function for blocking instructions. And I will be honest, I'm not a computer techie. I use a computer every day for for work. But you know, as far as the technology side of it, not good. I rely on our IT staff. But if you need help, talk to a friend. There's so many people that are wizards on computers. Talk to a family friend or a personal friend, or if you have to, talk to the social website themselves, or go to a local computer store where someone is a computer expert. There's various ways to get assistance. And I will say, as anti-social network as I am, I still have issues with a lot of the security systems that they've set in place, because with the millions and millions of profile pages that are on their websites, there's no way with what they have set in place that they can monitor every single profile. However, I will say MySpace, and I know this too from our training, MySpace is very, what's the word I'm looking for? They're very good with working with law enforcement. They have their system set up that if, whether it's bullying or gang-related stuff, anything crime-related, deputies or police officers, there's a system they have set in place where they talk to them, they get the search warrant, the website hands over what they need, and then the law enforcement officer has it for their case. So I will give them that much.
That's a great working relationship with them.
Mm-hmm. And I think I just covered that. Yes. And just quickly, I know we talked about this again, but just I think sometimes repeating things is important. If your child is targeted, please save and print any evidence of cyberbullying, and if appropriate, as we've already stated, report it to the school and or police. Obviously, if it's something that's happening while they're on campus using a school computer, the school needs to be notified of it as well. Cyberbullying may be a violation of terms of use of most websites, internet service providers, and cell phone companies, so make sure to file a complaint with them as well. And again, they can provide any copies of harmful messages or a link to the harmful material. And then, of course, ask for that account to be terminated. And then telephone or send a letter to the cyberbully's parents that includes copies of the bullying statements or pictures and a request that it stop. Educators, we've touched on this too, but make sure that ethics is included in computer instruction. Teach children to immediately tell an adult, as we've stated, and not to stand by silently while others are being tormented. We talked about the use of filters and monitoring the computer, but again, this needs to happen at the schools and libraries as well. They also need to have computers where they can be viewed on a regular basis by teachers and other school personnel. Immediately investigate any alleged incidents of cyberbullying. And again, not just cyberbullying, but any bullying. Any bullying, and as we touched on earlier, the vice principal, like I said, called and she believes there's bullying, but the principal doesn't want to deal with it. And that's so unfortunate. And then also incorporating policies against cyberbullying and bullying into, or having a prevention policy, and then having parents and students sign an acceptable use policy. And again, you know, we know there's parents out there where the kids may take home the policy, and instead of sitting down and going through it together and discussing it, the parent's just going to say, oh yeah, here we go, sign it and be done with it. And that's unfortunate, but hopefully we have more involved parents than not. And, go ahead.
Going back to just real quick on the telephone, the other parents, again, it's going back to knowing what your kids are doing. If you don't know what's going on and you don't know what's happening, and someone says, hey, your son or daughter is doing this, don't be that parent that goes, no, that's not my kid. Okay? Don't do that. If there's a problem, you need to identify it and stop it, because the last thing you want to do is to sit there and deny it, and then something happens, and the next thing you know, you're in trouble because you're not taking care of your kids. Okay? If you have an incident like this and your kid is doing it, act on it. Take the computer away. Do what you got to do. But please don't ignore it, because, I mean, let's face it. My kid, he ain't an angel, and I've caught him. Okay? And I've called him on it. And he knows now not to do stuff because it'll get in trouble or get stuff taken away. But it's because I'm on him. You know, and sometimes I feel I'm a little bit too much, but you know what? That's what we need to do, because 9 out of 10 times, if we don't pay attention to our kids, that's exactly what they do. They just go and do it anyway. So please, going back to that, if you happen to be the unfortunate parent that a letter gets sent to and says, hey, your kid's doing this, here's what's going on, address it, take care of the problem, and be done with it. Okay? Because if not, then you're just adding on to that problem. And then it can later become, you know, if it gets to that point, a criminal matter, and then now you're getting stuck in all the justice, you know, all that plays into it. So again, I can't reiterate, your parents, please get involved with your kids, stay on top of them, and don't think that, oh, little Johnny wouldn't do that. Yeah, little Johnny did it. You need to pay attention to it, and you need to take care of it.
Thanks, Monty. On the back of the brochure, How to Prevent Cyberbullying, I didn't get a chance today to put a slide together, but if you look on the back, there's a list of resources with various websites. So if you are, you want more information on this than we've given you tonight, or your kids are experiencing any of this, please use these resources. I will tell you that unfortunately, due to state budget cuts, the California Attorney General's Crime and Violence Prevention Center has been cut. It's very disappointing for us, but their website for now is still up and running, and we do get a lot of our materials. In fact, this is from that site, but even a lot of our materials that we use for other presentations and our Neighborhood Watch, in fact, we get from that website. So I encourage you to look there, because they have so many different topics, not just for adults, but for kids as well. So again, use these as another tool. There's plenty here, and as always, if you have further questions after tonight or need assistance, you can always call us at the Public Safety Office, and we'll be happy to assist you further. Go ahead.
And with that, anybody that's watching on the internet right now or watching the rebroadcast, you can contact us, as Shelley said, at 723-6063, and we'll be more than happy to put this informational flyer into the mail with all the resources on the back to you. Again, 723-6063.
And you have this in the back, right?
Yes.
Okay. The last thing I want to mention before we take questions, I'm not sure if you've heard of Jeremiah Project 51, but this is actually very close to the AV. This boy, Jeremiah Lassiter, he actually lived in Acton. And if you don't know his story, he actually shot himself, killed himself in Acton back in October of 2008, I believe. And I actually talked to his father last week, which was very touching. He was very pleased that we were doing this presentation, because he feels, as we do, that not enough people are aware and that the topic is not being discussed and handled properly. He's working very hard to get into all the schools. He's working, he told me that Texas and New York, various school districts have taken on his program. So we've given you the information. You can go on their website. We left the handout in the back for you. But Jeremiah was 14, and he was a big kid, as you'll read in the material. He was, his father didn't know, his mom and dad didn't know that he was being bullied pretty much on a daily basis. And it just broke my heart. I'm getting a little upset. And, but please read this because it's very important. We don't need to lose our youth. And it's so unfortunate that this is happening. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And with that, the one other thing we want to cover tonight is school violence, and it's just going to be real quick, 2 points. The one thing is firearms in schools. If you own firearms at home, keep them unloaded, keep them locked up. Teach your children possibly how to use them, but at least the safety aspect of them. So if they do see one in the street or another child brings one to school, they'll know what to do, to tell a teacher not to touch the gun, to walk by it, to tell the grown-up on it. And the main thing, is keep your firearms under control at home. It's good if the kids know where they are and you're good with that at an older age for security and safety, but they shouldn't be able to get into a gun locker, throw them in their backpack, and go to school with them. And that's where a lot of the tragedies have happened, not just one person maybe possibly committing suicide, which is bad enough, but somebody taking firearms to school and shooting 20 or 30 people like that. That's horrible. So keep them unloaded, locked down. You have the key. You have control of them. If you can't keep them in your house, keep them in somewhere at a friend's house in a gun locker, and teach your children if they hear talk at school. Somebody's talking about blowing something up. Somebody's going to shoot somebody. Somebody's planning to do this, and they feel it's just not an idle threat, but they feel there's something to it, and this person can actually carry it out. To at least tell mom and dad or tell the teacher or tell somebody before this stuff happens. Every time Columbine or any of these shootings, you look back and it's all develops the same way, and it could even be starting from bullying or whatever, and it's like, okay, I've been bullied all these years, I'm going to get even now. Speak up, somebody brings a knife to school, elementary school. Luckily my daughter did that one time. I was very happy with that. I came home from work, and I used to be a deputy, and it was like, my wife told me that little Bobby brought a pocket knife to school. My daughter went up front, hey, teacher, Bobby's got a pocket knife. Just that simple. And there's more good kids and bad kids. I'm not saying Bobby was bad because he brought this. I don't know why he brought it, but they don't belong in school. Same thing with firearms. Everybody should have a responsibility, even as kids, to speak up when they see stuff at school, drugs, weapons, they hear stuff that might be going on. Let somebody know. Don't go silent, and then we have a tragedy like this.
Mm-hmm. And please educate your family on guns, too. Our deputies, when they come out to our neighborhood watch meetings, we often get questions, well, I want to get a gun, what do you suggest? And education is so important, just like anything else. I can say I grew up with my dad having guns, but for whatever reason, I never had an interest in them. I didn't care to go looking in the closet and finding it up on the top shelf. My brother and I both were that way, so that wasn't an issue for me growing up. But as we know, a lot of kids are curious. So as several deputies have recommended, show your child the gun, teach, what it can do, how severe, obviously killing someone. How many stories have we heard where kids are playing around with guns and it goes off by accident and they just shot and killed their best friend. So also for the adults, go to a shooting range, and for the adults, learn the proper way to use the gun. And just quickly back on Jeremiah Project 51, the reason it's called that, Jeremiah was the boy that shot and killed himself. 51 was the number of his football jersey. So again, I encourage you to read this. There is information on his program that he's trying to get and wants to get in every school. And there's actually an 800 number for parents as well as for kids. So I'm hopeful that our local schools will include this in their program. And again, what got me when reading his story after I talked to his father, was the fact that the day he shot and killed himself, and this wasn't a one-time thing, but even the day he shot and killed himself, he had had chili thrown on him and his pants pulled down. And as you'll read from his father, he couldn't take it anymore. But again, his father had no idea. So please pass this information on to your friends. Obviously, you're here tonight and we appreciate it. It's something, unfortunately, that our kids are dealing with, and we hope to help stop that. At this time, we'll take any questions. As a reminder, if you have a question, if you can be patient with us, one of us will get out to you with the microphone. It's just so your question will be clear on the audio when it's, as we're live, but also for playback. Are there any questions or comments? Everyone's quiet.
If you do have any questions, anything you don't want to bring up while we're on air, we'll be here for a while. Feel free to come up. Anything you want to state, ask, or anything, if we can answer it, we'll be more than happy to do that. You have anything else to add, Shelley?
Just, I hope this was helpful for you. And again, as Craig and I have stated, please feel free to call us in the Public Safety Office. Whether it's bullying or anything else public safety related, we're here to assist you.
And if you do get on the Public Safety website on the City of Lancaster, you can go through all the presentations we've done. They're in the archives. You can watch them at your convenience. We've done them on emergency preparedness and graffiti and scams and schemes and identity theft and a few other things. So that is another resource for you.
And I'm going to throw this out there, and I'm sure Shelley and Craig will back me on this, but if you do have PTAs that want to hear about this, please feel free to have them contact us so we can give them this presentation also, because it's very important that the parents, since we do have these PTAs, have a voice as to what or how we're going to protect our children. And like I said, if the administrators don't want to pay attention, then I think us as parents need to step up and say, hey, this is a serious matter. What policies do we have? What are we going to do about it? So I encourage that if you want to pass this on to your PTAs, have them get in contact with Craig or Shelley at the city, or have them give me a call at the station. We all work hand-in-hand together, so we'll probably do we will do the presentations together, and that's what we normally do with these kind of presentations. So with that being said, just please, whatever topic that you feel is important that needs to get out to administrators, parents, feel free to call. Any questions, comments?
Oh.
Hold on.
We'll get the mic to you.
I had an incident at school with my son at Parkview. He was choked and photographed, and we found the kid that was doing it, so I went to that kid's parents and talked to him and tried to confiscate the camera. And the father grabbed it from my hand, and we let the principal handle the situation. And when I kept trying to go to the principal to tell him, well, what's being done, he said it was handled already. I destroyed the camera, and that's all that was done. And what else can you do? I mean, the principal didn't seem to care either at that time.
Did you go to the district office?
I went to the Lancaster School District, and I talked to someone there, and they just said they will have someone follow up and call me. No one ever did.
Have you called back?
Well, this was in Parkview. My son's now in high school.
Okay.
A couple of years, but it has happened. And he got bullied at Lancaster by a football player. He's a special ed kid. Mm-hmm. And the teacher's real good, and, he told me about it. But a lot of times my son is the one that gets suspended because he tries to defend himself.
Yeah, and that's where I believe truly that our schools need to do a better job of dealing with this situation, because that was something mentioned in Jeremiah's story as well, that the kids, even the day that he shot and killed himself, the kids that were involved with bullying him, they only got suspended for 2 days, and that's not acceptable. A life is worth way more than that. So I'm sorry your son had to deal with that, but I would say be persistent. Work with your PTA. I know it can be a financial burden, but I would even say, if you can get your, not only the PTA, possibly a church, but even a lawyer if you have to. And it's unfortunate that we have to take all those steps, but as we know, it's something that is a huge impact, and we all have to work together. And I'm not saying that every school isn't doing their part, but as you heard our story earlier, and with your situation, they didn't handle it. That's my opinion. They didn't handle it properly.
Now, as far as where we come in, there's a line that's crossed at that point. If they're getting physically hurt, or in some cases money taken from them, but in this case, if they're throwing them to the ground and they're taking pictures or doing whatever, you kind of cross that line of going from bullying to now assaulting the individual. So that's where we would have stepped in and said, hey, you know what, it may not be a big deal to you, but you know what, he did this to him, and there would have been another way of going about it.
That's why I wanted the photos developed, so it could show the parents
evidence.
what's going on.
Exactly, and like I said, us as parents, we need to do that. But hopefully with this presentation and with everybody at home listening, the bullying is one thing, and no kid should go through that. But once they cross that line and you start getting physical with someone or you start taking money away, those are criminal acts. That's where we have to step in. Some of the schools have hired school deputies that are on campus. Go to those school deputies. They'll sit there and they'll listen to you. But you need to let them know what's going on, because if it's just one incident and nothing happens, well, of course, we don't have a problem. We don't want to have a problem. And I'm sure Parkview was probably thinking the same way. Oh, if we do something here, everybody's going to be upset and whatever. Well, bad way of handling it, because like I told you, when we drop our kids off, have a sense of security when we drop them off. They should be safe when they're there. They should be safe coming home. No child should be going through that. So whether it was handled right or wrong, I don't have an opinion, but was that line crossed from what you just said? Yeah. And something should have been done on a police level.
And one thing, not changing the subject, but we're going to be implementing, the city and the sheriff's department are going to have a joint program going here. It'll probably be starting August, September, time permitting with our schedules. Monty and Shelley got trained last year, and I got trained with another deputy a couple weeks ago, and it's going to be, in a way, kind of a self-defense class for children 5 to 12 years old. And it's not just physically self-defense, but what to say, what to do, let them know that they're not the victim, even with bullying or whatever, that they're not the victim. And we're going to try to implement that to train kids and work with the schools on that, as far as, not setting policy naturally, but just working with policies like the zero tolerance. Maybe something can be massaged on that after we get this program going, to show that it's a situation with where if a victim is being bullied, maybe they shouldn't be getting kicked out of school if they're just covering up trying to defend themselves. So we're going to try to implement that in the next couple months here.
A huge part of the program is self-esteem, and the physical aspect comes from teaching them how to escape from a predator. And when Monty and I got trained in December, even though I'm an adult female, I felt very empowered afterwards. And I thought, wow, if this program was around when I was a kid, I would be far, far, far above, self-esteem and knowing how to fight off. Luckily, I've never been attacked, knock on wood, hopefully that doesn't happen. But now I feel that I have even more tools in my toolbox if somebody were to attack me. Even though we're going to be teaching kids, there are moves that I can use as an adult. So we're very excited about this program, but again, it's not just the physical part. It's very empowering for the kids, but again, it's all based around self-esteem, and bullying is one of the sessions or part of it as well. So we're very excited about it. When we're ready to start it, we'll definitely be promoting it, and you'll hear about it. We plan to open it to the community. We feel that once it gets started, we'll be inundated, but we feel strongly that it's obviously a great program for kids. So we're not sure. We may have to choose a set group of kids just to get us started, and then obviously we'll build from there. And because Monty and I were trained, and now Craig and another deputy were trained. That's going to allow us to offer more classes. So it's a 10-hour course. So again, we'll get the word out to the public as soon as we're ready to get it going.
Okay.
If it does kick off good and everybody does like it, maybe some of the school officials will be able to send some of their people to do that, and then they'll be able to, to get trained in that, and maybe even get it into the schools, possibly as a curriculum, during physical education or something like that during the daytime.
See, and I feel that if we market it right, and we get good press on it, and we get the word out there, it will take off, because there's 4 of us that are trained up here, and it'll be a one-of-a-kind program for up here. So what we're trying to do is get it going without giving out too much. I know you guys are like, oh, what is it, what is it? It really does help out, because for the longest time, what do we tell our kids? You always be polite to people. Never talk back to an adult. Well, what we teach them is to actually talk back to the bad adults, people who are trying to hurt them. And that's why, like Shelley said, it's an empowerment program, because from our little ones, what do we teach? You got to be polite to that man over there because he's older than you. Okay, that's fine, but if he's trying to hurt you, guess what? Now you get to defend yourself and make as much noise as you want, because you're not going to get hurt.
Because no one has the right to
hurt you, right. And the program, I'm just going to let them know, that way they can go research if they want. It's called Rad Kids, and it's a really good program. You get on the website, you check it out, and it gives you an idea what it is. So if you're sitting at home wondering, what's going on, the program is called Rad Kids. If you look on it, you get on the website, it'll explain to you what's going on. So like I said, I don't want to give too much, because we're excited about it, and we want to be able to promote it like we are going to in the future, and get a lot of press time and air time out of it, and maybe it'll take off. So anyway.
We had one more question here.
What do you do with the bullying when it's an adult teacher? My grandson goes to AV High School, and he had a teacher that was bullying not only him but other students in the classroom. Grandma, which is me because he lives with me, got involved in it. I went all the way to everybody. I even took it to the Antelope Valley High School school board and talked to people. My son had to come from Bakersfield and get involved in it also, and they still just brushed it off. Nobody wanted to say anything. Nobody wanted to do anything, because this is a trusted teacher that's been there forever.
Yeah, see, that's where, again, I think, well, this is my opinion and my opinion only, but as a school administrator, if I've got a problem with a teacher, I should take care of it, because students, kids come first. As law enforcement, that line hasn't been crossed yet, so there's nothing really we could do. But if they want to deny anything's going on and whatever, then that's on them. You're doing everything you can. I mean, shy of taking them to court, getting a restraining order from them, I can't tell you what you can do. Like I said, once that line is crossed, then we can get involved. It sounds to me like whoever the administrators are at the school, and even higher, aren't taking this serious, and they need to see this, because that one teacher there isn't affecting just that one student, which is yours, but the whole class. And if they see it, what are they going to think? Oh, the rest of the teachers are going to be like that. So, again, be persistent, push it. If you don't feel like you're getting what you think you're getting, you know what? People read the newspaper. People watch TV. People read editorials. You do what you got to do to get the word out there, and maybe with enough pressure, you can get your opinion out, your story out. Maybe someone will pay attention, going, you know what, maybe we do have a problem. Now we've gone too far. We can't ignore this. So I'm sorry that it's happening to you and your grandchild, but like I said, you as a guardian need to make sure that you're putting pressure on whoever you need to put pressure on.
Any other questions?
Comments? No?
We'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. Like I said, this will be rebroadcast on Channel 28 during the month, and it'll actually be on our websites with the other presentations. If you do have any questions on anything or anything you want to talk to us privately about, we'll be up here as long as you need us. Thank you. you.